In. All right, everybody, welcome to a brand new, incredible special episode of Spiritual Asshole. I am joined by Dr. Carolyn Lovewell. She's an amazing coach, author of Existential Kink, Unmask Your Shadow, and Embrace Your Power. Carolyn, how are you doing?
It's so wonderful, just delightful.
Yeah, you sound delightful. So, you basically argue that it's best for us to get off on our deepest flaws, almost even celebrate and welcome them. But doesn't that just describe the Republican National Convention?
Yeah, well, they seem to be having a lot of success lately, don't
That's a really good point.
they?
That's a really, really good point. So, how did you get to this place? Like, I listened to some podcasts, I read your book. How did you discover this? Because it's such a unconventional, pretty awesome like mentality.
Yeah, well, a few different layers to it. I was in a sex cult called One Taste. I was
Hell
on the
yeah.
periphery of it. I wasn't like guilty of the felonies that they were involved with. But yeah, it was a cult devoted to clitoral stroking. So I was really behind that. I was really Yeah, you're in Southern California. I think it's starting up again there. You can go. You could get in on that cult
All right, yeah,
today.
I gotta do a quick Google. Hold on. Hold up, I gotta find out where it is.
You could stroke ladies' clitorises all the live long day. But yeah, I was in that cult and I was broke and I was miserable, but I was getting my clitoris stroked for like 2 hours a day. So I had good things going. But within that context, I was like thinking about how miserable I was. And I noticed that actually I was really turned on by how much I was struggling. Like I
Mm.
would think about like, no, wow, nobody's paying me anything. Like I was trying to be a coach then. I was trying to be a creativity coach. I had a book on creativity published. And I had some clients, but I was like barely squeaking by. And I knew of clients in the orgasmic or coaches in the orgasmic meditation world who were getting paid $1,000 an hour. That's pretty normal coach pay for California life. But for Pittsburgh, it blew my mind, you know. And I was just thinking about, I was doing the work of Byron Katie one day.
Yeah.
Because, you question your thoughts, you turn them around. So I was questioning this thought, people should want to pay me $1,000 an hour. And I turned it around, Byron Katie style, to nobody should ever want to pay me anything, ever.
Mm.
And I felt this zing throughout my body. And I was just like, my body was like, yes, that's so hot. And then as soon as I felt, I was like, oh no, no wonder I can't make any money. I'm so turned on by being devalued. And I
Mm.
was like, boy, this isn't just a bedroom kink thing. This is existential. This is affecting my whole life, my whole existence.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was when I began to realize that, and I was familiar with all of the law of attraction teaching stuff about you manifest what you desire. And I'd also been to grad school and I'd read all sorts of Freud and Jung, and I knew that people have unconscious desires, desires that they're totally not aware of. And I had started to suspect that I had an unconscious desire to be broke. And
Mm.
it turned out that was true.
Yeah, so I think a big thing in the spiritual community is like, think good thoughts, right? Like that's like we're so, and for the longest time I was so scared of thinking bad thoughts, and I still kind of am. So what do you say to those people that are like, well, I can't acknowledge this stuff or I can't think this way because then I'm going to attract those things in my life?
Well, usually people already are attracting them. Right? Like, unless somebody is completely happy, has like absolutely everything they want. The only person, I thought one day I had this thought, I was like, who is the only woman in all of film or novels or TV that I've ever seen who has everything she wants? She has like this hot, amazing marriage and husband. She has her children love her. She's creatively fulfilled. She's rich. She has clothes and the house that she wants. The only woman I could think of Brendan. I don't know. Do you have any guesses? Anybody completely fulfilled and happy women in all of art?
Jimmy Carter.
Yeah, yeah, Jimmy Carter and Morticia Addams.
Ah.
Morticia Addams has absolutely everything she wants. She's totally creatively, romantically, maternally, financially fulfilled, and she gets off on everything. You know, at the end of the Addams Family movie in the 90s, the bad guys are like torturing her and she is loving it. And she is not
Wow.
even judging the bad guys at all. She's like, wow, we could have been best friends, but I mean, you got a little bit rude here. Like you took all of my house and from my family and everything, but like you're vicious, you're resentful, you're bitter. We could have totally vibed. Like anyways, she's just, you know, and there's a deep, deep truth to that, which is, Morticia and the Addams family in general, they have a deep ancestral connection and they're really okay with death and they're really okay with insanity and they're really okay with all sorts of deep, dark things that normal people aren't okay with, right? And paradoxically, that makes them more wholesome. That makes them have a stronger family, a better life, more wealth. They have a giant, basement filled with gold. And it started to dawn on me that that ability to really find, so in a way I can see how on the surface how the existential kink teaching, get off on what you don't want so that you can have what you want. I can see how the getting off on the don't like situations can seem to conflict with like more conventional law of attraction teachings that are
Right.
like, just think about what you want. If you see fat people, ignore them. Only think about thin people and how thin and fit you want to be. If you
Right.
see somebody suffering, ignore them. Don't focus on it. And EK is very different than that, but essentially, I think it is the core truth that our vibes, our deep, deep vibrational alignment does arrange our reality. And if the deep vibration that I have is of absolute deep acceptance and orgasmic enjoyment of the whole spectrum of reality that I'm experiencing, that's a very resilient, positive vibration. And
Mm.
that it brings in very wonderful synchronicities and opportunities. And I could just never get the conventional law of attraction thing to work for me because I'm somebody who's naturally, and I think a lot of millennials are, and a lot of Generation Z too. I think we're more naturally inclined to sort of darker contemplations, Gen X also, than the boomers. Boomers sold us conventional law of attraction teachings so hard because they grew up in the most plentiful time in American history,
That's a really great point,
world
man.
history.
That's a really
And,
great point.
it was things were easier for them.
So
So,
yeah, yeah.
mhm.
Do you think then, so the missing piece to this wholeness, let's say the missing piece from us to Morticia Addams is the resistance then, it seems like. And that seems to be a big part of what you're saying.
Absolutely. So the interesting thing is when we have these unconscious desires, being ashamed of them or blaming ourselves for them, like, because I could have thought like, oh, I have this desire, to be poor. I'm turned on by being devalued. That's so fucked up. Oh, I'm so horrible. Oh, I'm the root of all this. I suck. I could have gone down that lane, but I realized I knew again from my grad school time, I have a PhD in critical and cultural studies, which basically just means reading a whole bunch of old European men. Um, I learned that, if you shame and resentment keep stuff in the unconscious. So for something to become conscious, it has to be associated with the ego. So the ego has to treat it as something volitional. It has to be like, I volitionally choose this. I desire this. I wish for this. And, ordinarily the ego's like, well, I only want good things. I only want people to like me and give me lots of money, and I want to be fit and healthy and everything, which is very normal because those are all the things that support survival. But the ego has to start to realize that it's not in charge. The soul is in charge, and the
Mm.
soul is round and it is a microcosm of the macrocosm, and it is really curious about every experience in incarnation, including death, including failure, including scarcity, rejection, all of these really intense, sensational things. So, anyways, if they're already happening in my life, that there's already some desire that's attracting them according to the own logic of law of attraction, which I agree with. There's a desire, it's an unconscious desire, it's attracting this stuff. The way to make that conscious is to give it volitional approval, deep, deep, deep approval, so that the shame goes away, the resentment, the bitterness goes away. And when that happens, there's a change in identity. And an identity level change is the most powerful thing for magic and manifestation, because when your identity changes, everything around you changes, the whole environment switches.
If we all did this, though, aren't you worried that no one will be left to give money to the Catholic Church?
That does keep me up at night. I do toss and I turn, and I'm like, what about the poor Pope
What about
and
the Pope, man? They just
all
don't
of
have
those?
enough to...
He just doesn't have enough. He has a giant vault of gold under the Vatican, and what
It's
if it
not
runs
enough.
out?
Yeah, so what would you say, and then I want to get into a little bit your story. What would you say to those people? Because I'm kind of experiencing this. I've been doing some of your techniques, but the pattern still is showing up. What would you
Yeah,
say? What would you say then?
that it's usually a process. So it's usually a process of some weeks or some months of noticing the pattern and giving it continued deeper and deeper love. And sometimes I do phrase it as like getting off on the situation itself. So
Yeah.
like I remember there were times when I would get bills and I would have no idea how to pay them, which ordinarily would just send me into like a full-on freak out. But I discovered that it's possible to just be present, like feel myself start to freak out and just decide to experience that in a different context. Instead of like, I'm freaking out because I owe this money and I'm so horrible and I'm going to die and I'll be a street lady and I'll be pushing a grocery cart and blah, blah, blah. Instead, just be like, whoa, here's this bill. There's a lot of sensation in my body. This is amazing. I'm getting exactly what I want. All of this really hot, intense sensation. Wow. Whoa, I am so fulfilled by getting this bill that I have no idea how I'm going to pay it. Amazing. And the more that I would get into that vibe, the faster things would start to shift. So it wasn't like, da da da, I am rich, I don't have this bill. It wasn't like that. It's like, here's this bill. And like, whoa, it's happening. And finding the orgasmic joy that's there.
I love the idea of getting arrested and just going, "Whoa, it's happening, right? It's really We're really going to jail, right? Wow, this is really happening." The officers would be like, "I think we gotta let this person go. They're fucking crazy."
Exactly. Yeah, no, that's exactly what I mean, existential kink is fucking crazy. It is absolutely you have to be absolutely 1000% insane to do this. It's an utterly insane orientation to reality. It is not normal, which is why it's so magically powerful.
That's great. Yeah, and can you talk a little bit about like how your life transformed? I listened to you tell the story about I think you were dating in an abusive relationship you kept going back to, and then you started making money after you started doing this.
Yeah, so there was a whole process. So yeah, whew, yeah, it was around the same time that I was broke. I was in this horrible, shitty, abusive relationship, and I started making money as I started getting off on my poverty, and I started getting really honest with myself that there was a part of me that really liked this super messed up relationship because I knew that it was messed up. Dude was like throwing ceramic coffee cups at my head. He was like super crazy and jealous. And there was a part of me that was like, oh, I'm so horrible. That's why I can only get this kind of horrible relationship because I suck and blah, blah, blah. And of course, as long as a woman believes that she's horrible, she's likely to get into horrible relationships. That's how
Right.
that works. And finally, I got to the place with it where I was like, okay, well, what do I like about this situation? What is the payoff here? And I realized that what I liked about it, because he was so jealous and crazy and controlling, was he was relating to me like he was a heroin addict and I was the heroin.
Oh,
And he
wow.
had to control his supply. And he just desired me so much, he like couldn't control himself. And that's kind of hot. When I was really honest with myself, I was like, it's hot. And so I let myself fully feel the joy that was there in this dark situation. Again, the sexy, orgasmic joy within the darkness. And then I was like, and I'd gone back to this again and again. Like I'd broken up with this dude, kicked him out of the place where I lived. Then like 3 days later, called him up. I mean, I was the one creating this. And anyways, when I finally let myself feel completely receive the deep, dark, forbidden joy of being, coveted like heroin, I was good. I got off on it. I was complete. It's sort of like,
Mm.
when a guy has an orgasm, then he rolls over and goes to sleep. I was like, I don't need to, I'm done here. And then I didn't, call the guy again, and I moved to Bali, and he lost my trail, and I've been safe ever since.
And he's listening to this podcast right now.
Yeah, that's that is a little bit scary sometimes, but bless him, he seems to have moved on and is living his life. But yeah, it's really powerful when we admit to ourselves the deep, dark, secret payoff that we're getting from a situation and stop shaming it and just truly let ourselves deeply receive it and be nourished by it. Because there's some part of ourselves that wants that nourishment. And until it gets that nourishment, it consciously, deliberately, with approval, is able to receive that nourishment, it will just keep compulsively coming out sideways and seeking it and trying to get what it wants. So existential kink is all about basically letting the nourishment and the satisfaction happen and consciously, deliberately letting it happen. And to do that takes a lot of surrender and it takes an ego death because our idea of who we are has to change. I
Yeah.
have to be willing to admit I'm actually somebody who is getting a deep, rich pleasure from this crazy, coffee mug thrown at my head relationship is really, really doing something for me.
Mm.
And stop seeing myself as a victim because that's the big lie that all of food, man, so all of our culture is really selling hard, especially, to everybody, women and minorities, I feel like especially, which is you're a victim, you're owed something, the world is messed with you, you have every right to be resentful and bitter and demand stuff and angry. And like that is so, I hate that. I really don't like that. It's because that's such disempowering message. It's because it is magically inefficacious. Because as long as I'm bitter and angry and see myself as this like put upon victim of fate, I'm going to remain a victim of fate. I have to lose all bitterness, all resent. My heart needs to become light as a feather in order for me to have the life that I really want, my happily ever after kind of, fairy tale existence. And that takes that takes the death of this identity of, that sees itself as some kind of tragic figure.
Yeah, and this just hit me, which I think is really awesome. Like the fact that you're able to talk about your past like that and say that you liked it and say that you actually enjoyed it has allowed you to move on. So many people that talk about their past are holding on to it with anger and it keeps them stuck. Like I feel like you wouldn't be here right now talking to me or writing that book if you were still mad at the guy who threw a fucking cup at your head. Like that was serious. But so many
Yeah,
of us hold on to that and think that that's the way to solve it. I'll just stay mad at that person. It's their fault, right?
absolutely, precisely. And that's the great illusion. And the truth is forgiveness. And existential kink is just sort of like a fancy, sexy way of practicing forgiveness.
The sexiest. So okay, so take me down your life then. You go to Bali, you discover this is working, then you just go deeper down this road because you're like, "Oh shit, this is actually working."
Yes. So I go deep down it. I find that it, makes these major improvements in my romantic life and in my monetary life. So like I said, it shifted my identity. So previously I'd have been this like struggling creativity coach. And I just started to get ideas about like, oh, I could create an email list. I could offer courses to my email list. This isn't like advanced super rocket science, but it was just like something that I had blinders on to because I saw myself as a pathetic, put upon person who nobody, and suddenly I saw myself as like, oh, I'm actually pretty cool. I'm getting everything that I want. What I want is to be broke and in an abusive relationship. And I am getting exactly that. Everybody should listen to me. I know how to get what I want. And so, so yeah, my identity shifted and I started making money selling online courses on writing and magic. And I was living in Bali. I went around Europe. When I came back to my hometown of Pittsburgh, a guy reached out to me that I had known years ago from throwing parties, and he wanted to hang out. Now he's my husband. He's
Aw.
amazing, wonderful man. And we've had all sorts of like, deep issues to work out because while he is absolutely wonderful, I love him with all my heart. He's a fountain of joy and wisdom. We both still had karmic stuff. So we had plenty of fun drama. So I've had like fun working out, fun drama in my relationship with my husband for the past 9 years. And that's sort of dying down. Like we seem to have worked through like lots of that. So now I'm like, oh man, what sadomasochistic vistas are left for me? I don't
You've done
even,
it all.
yeah.
There's nowhere else to look.
Yeah.
Okay, so in your mind, here's one kind of concern I have. What about, because this is sort of where like a logical brain would take this, your approach. What if something, quote, bad happens to you or something you don't want happens to you, and you start thinking it's some kind of kink when it's just a parking ticket? Like, have you ever thought about that, or it's just a thing that happens?
Yeah, so I like to apply existential kink to things that are like long-term ongoing patterns. So like me being broke, that was a long-term
Yeah,
ongoing
absolutely.
my string of abusive relationships, long-term ongoing pattern. When people are like, "Oh, my grandfather died and I feel horrible. Should I do existential kink about it?" I'm like, "No." uh, you should cry and go to the funeral and listen to sad music that reminds you of your grandfather. Like, I feel like there's grieving, and grieving is really, really important. And just essentially, feeling all of our feelings honestly, whatever they
Hmm.
are. But yeah, sometimes people will be like, I was raped in college. Should I try to get off on that? And it's just like, I don't recommend trying to get off on, your worst trauma. I don't, especially if it was like a random kind of one-off thing. I think, there's lots, existential kink is like one tool in the toolbox. And I love how excited people get about it, but I am sort of just like, there's other things you can do. But yeah, it's there, but there is a very deep metaphysical sense that some existential kink practitioners get to that I know that I have, and I know that So I have a whole existential kink coach training program, and
Mm.
I have a mystery school, I have almost online schools on magic. So I've worked with a lot of people over the years, and some people do get to the place where it's like they can really feel and experience the way that their soul really wanted, really was curious about a deep, dark, traumatic experience. And they've been able to find joy and release there. So that does happen, but I would say that's like a super advanced thing, and I would not recommend that
Yeah.
anybody start out there. I would recommend starting out with like how irritated you feel that your neighbor lets their dog poop in front of your house. Start with that.
Yeah, so for me it would be like not booking auditions. Being like, do I have a kink to not being seen or something like that? Or yeah, like rejection. Like what do you think about
Mm,
rejection? You got
Well, I
super
mean,
excited. You got super excited. Here we
I
go.
got very excited because Southern California and Hollywood and that whole scene is super kinky, super whoa. I mean, boy, the Catholic Church, I don't know. I mean, yeah, they got their stuff going on, but Hollywood does too. So,
That's a great
yeah,
point.
the whole game of like, are they gonna accept me? Are they gonna like me? Are they gonna hire me? I feel you, man. I mean, it's in the publishing world too. But it's yeah, I would say there's usually kinky things woven in there. That could definitely be a subject for existential kink meditation. And by the way, I do have, like I said, hundreds of trained coaches. So while I don't coach myself personally, much anymore because I'm very lazy and I eat bonbons on the couch all day. There
Sweet.
are hundreds of people I've trained, so you might want to talk to one of them.
So, yeah, so let's talk a little bit about like you've come up with these amazing techniques. One of the techniques is to like really welcome it and feel it. What if when you're feeling it, it starts to feel really fucking uncomfortable and you're like, I can't do this. Like, then what do you do?
Exactly. Then you should stop.
Okay.
Yeah, no, well, I mean, so here's the thing. It's existential kink practice and takes having what I like to call, in a very super technical scientific way, just free floating positive energy. So it's
Mm.
like if somebody is depressed, I don't think they should try the meditation at all because I think it just leads to rumination. Like, I think you have to be in essentially like a good mood. You have to be generally feeling good in your body. You have to have some self-approval, some sense of humor about your life and your situation in order to meditatively open up and be like, I'm going to just experiment. I'm going to just go in and see, is there some part of me that, like, oh my God, fucking loves this rejection? It's like, whoa, is that there? Can I gently find that and like touch that place with zero shame? And you know, sometimes that's possible and sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's like you go into the meditation and just, can't do it. I can't get there. I definitely hit a wall. Like my husband and I, for a while, we were just arguing a whole lot, and I could not find any part of me that desired this. And I was like, why did I write this stupid fucking book about, and I was just like, I mean, eventually I was able to find it, but it took, accessing that, getting enough free floating, enough open perspective and enough, like I said, free floating positive energy in my system in order to be able to get off on like a deep, dark karmic pattern from like both of his and mine's families. That took a lot. That took other therapeutic interventions. So
Hmm.
it happened, but sometimes it takes more.
In your mind, is there a difference between a kink and just a habit or a choice? Like someone has a kink for, let's say, they're dating the wrong guys, but maybe they're just making choices that just really like DJs. Like, is there a way? Is there a difference in your mind?
Um, let's see. Is there a difference? Is there a difference? So a kink is generally something that's I mean, obviously people have conscious kinks who are like, oh my God, I love leather boots or I like being whipped or whatever. Obviously that's a
Yeah.
thing. But in this definition, an existential kink is something that starts out being unconscious. So the person is not aware of it. It's like cruel fate keeps winding me up with these DJs. I don't know why. I hate DJs. In fact, that actually reminds me of when I was in my 20s, I dated a guy named DJ Fuck You. He was a
Um,
noise artist. Oh my God, let me tell you this, Brendan. He was a noise artist, which
what
meant
does
that
that mean?
he hooked up these machines that made these horrible ear-splitting reverb, super loud. He would just
Oh
like
my
set this
God.
up and play it. And I would just be standing there like a noise artist groupie with DJ Fuck You. That's how sadomasochistic I am. When I think about that, I'm like, God, Carolyn.
That's so funny. That image alone of you being like, no, no, trust me, I like this. It's like the worst sounds in the world.
Crazy. I mean, I was cute in my 20s and I was just like standing there with this guy making these horrible sounds and it's nuts. So anyways,
I'll give you a really specific example of a friend of mine. She just had her third experience of dating a guy who was secretly married, coming to her house to yell at him. Three times this has happened to her.
she was 3 times she has dated a guy who's turned out to be secretly married and he comes to her house to yell at her.
No, the girl, the wife, or gets
Oh,
involved. And I
yes.
was like, holy shit, man.
That qualifies. That is a repeating pattern and yeah, that could definitely have you given her my book?
No, I'm gonna tell her about
Okay.
I'm gonna tell her about this stuff for sure. But like that is an example of something
Yeah,
like
and
almost
everybody knows.
inexplicable. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, what is happening here? It's like this weird fate, like this weird machination. And it's like, exactly. so everybody knows situations like this where it's
Yeah.
like have that one friend who like says that, they hate having tyrannical bosses, but like this is their 10th job where they have a boss who treats them like a Siberian slave or whatever. I don't know. It's just
And then I guess what would you say be the difference between that and just a chronic pattern of thought that's negative? Is that tied together to you?
they're very tied together. But it's usually I mean, sometimes the chronic pattern of thought that's negative can, again, it can be deeply repressed so that the conscious mind isn't even aware of it. So that's how you get people who are like super into manifestation and thinking positive thoughts and going to like, I don't know, Abraham Hicks workshops and just like, and they're still, having these banana experiences of like, I always date men who turn out to be married and their wives come to my house and tell me I'm a whore. And, just like it just keeps happening. My vision board does not include that. But yes, so yeah, it's a very universal human thing.
Oh,
We
absolutely.
called it psychic masochism. And Freud and Jung both realized that like this is what people needed to realize in order to have psychological health. They needed to realize that they weren't being victimized by their lives, that their lives were matching something deep within them. But both of them had the experience of just straight up telling people this and people being like, shut the fuck up and just like leaving, which is, the understandable human reaction. And I was like, well, if I just write a book and I'm like, it's not personal, guys, it's everybody. It's not just you.
Right. Yeah, yeah. Do you think
Yeah.
that people are like so worried to do this process because if we all just let these kind of inner machinations flow through us, it would just become one big Philadelphia Eagles game?
Perhaps I don't even know anything about what are the Philadelphia Eagles up
The
to?
fans are psychotic. There's a jail in the stadium. So it's just like a free for all, people just being animals.
Oh,
Their
well, you know
fans are
what?
maniacs.
Yeah, would we all become maniacs if we all did this meditation? I think we would all stop seeing ourselves as victims and stop being whiny little bitches who can't take care of ourselves. And I think we would turn into like spiritually mature, self-sufficient people. Like, have you ever noticed in indigenous societies, they'll be like, oh, these are our elders, and we revere
Yeah.
them, we take their wisdom. And then in America, people just turn into old babies. They just turn into like old, mean babies. I mean, not all of them. Obviously, like some people do manage against all odds to become genuinely wise, kind elders. But
Yeah.
by and large, lots of people just turn into old, resentful babies. And that's not what's supposed to happen. We're supposed to come to a place of maturity. And, other civilizations did that with like mystery schools, with initiatory rites, with coming of age rites, all sorts of things. In our culture, we just try to, I mean, if we want to, I like to get all tinfoil hat with
Let's
it and
do
be
it.
like, there's people who've been conspiring to like make sure that we all just stay old babies because old babies are weak and they don't fight back and they're not self-determining and they're just, they suck their little consumption tubes and they shit and they die and they're easy to manage.
Right.
But when you get into this EK stuff, like the slogan of the Adams family, their family motto was, "We gladly feast on those who would subdue us." And I
Mm.
think that's what starts to happen to people when they get really into EK. They get in touch with their spiritual, ancestral soul power. They stop being whiny little bitches. They they come into the fullness of their larger self. And I'm really into that. I really want to see that happen all over. I call it my alchemical literacy project.
Yeah, and I think like when someone doesn't have resistance around something or they're being like super like you mentioned, Adam's family, there's nothing to push back against, right? It's like punching an ice cream cone, like you're the asshole. If someone, right, if someone like goes to tie you up and you're like, "Thank you." You're like, "What the fuck?" Like it makes you not want to then do it. It's crazy. Like it's almost backwards thinking, you know?
Yeah, it's like, that's the thing. It's like, yeah, it sort of reminds me of like when I first started out, like having a public online presence. I was like so afraid that people were going to see me as like wrong and bad because I was charging money for spiritual teachings. And I would get like whole crowds of people like calling me an evil vampire. And it was so amazing. And then Then when I was like, yeah, I am an evil vampire, suddenly I'd be like, look at me, I'm charging money for spiritual teachings. Don't you want to call me an evil vampire? And people would be like, no, that's totally, can we pay you for your spiritual teaching? So,
Wow.
and it was just like, I was like,
Amazing.
wow, this is very interesting.
Yeah, it's like it's almost a polarization or a magnetism that works the other way around. Like it's really crazy. So do you think in order to like actually fully process these prohibitions as you call them, you have to come to them?
Well, so erotic release is one option that can happen, and but it's not all the time. Sometimes the climaxing of it can be like a heart climax. Like sometimes like people will just, they'll start to gently cry and they'll just like their hearts will open. Sometimes people will just start laughing, like they're being tickled.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just like sometimes it just lifts like a heavy cloud just lifting. So
Mm.
the release can happen in all sorts of ways through all sorts of different energy centers in the human body. But I would say, like, the key ingredients are humor and deep, deep love and deep, deep willingness to see the truth, even if it's a truth that, challenges my identity and makes my ego uncomfortable.
I love that. Can we talk about just quickly about a couple of the techniques? Because like the deep fear inventory is fascinating.
Yeah.
So how'd you come to that? How'd you come up with that?
I think that's inspired by Marianne Williamson quote. She wrote a book, Marianne Williamson, she ran for
Yeah.
president. There were all these memes on Facebook about her being the orb mother that I thought were really great. She wrote a book called Return to Love, which is about A Course in
Amazing.
Miracles, which is the Upanishads of Midwestern white people. Are you familiar with A
I'm
Course in
familiar. I
Miracles?
haven't read it because I heard it's so long and I'm like, I don't got the time. But yeah.
Yeah, it's really long. But in her book, she has this line that's like, your greatest fear is not that you're powerless. Your greatest fear is that you're powerful beyond all measure, is the gist of it.
Right.
And I was really intrigued by that quote, and I got really curious about it. And and I've been in 12-step groups where you take inventories of your fears and resentments and everything. And so anyways, so the way I can explain to your audience how deepest fear inventory
Yeah,
works,
for
if
sure.
you
Yeah,
want
please.
to.
Yeah.
So it's basically, I think about a situation that I'm in that I don't really like so much. Like, so, you were talking about getting rejected for auditions. I'm in this situation where Joe Rogan has not invited me on his podcast. I mean, Marvelous Brendan has, Marvelous Wise Brendan, but not Joe Rogan. And so, there's this part of me that's like, I want to be on these super big podcasts, but that's not happening. So, what we do is we start by turning it around and seeing that that's a situation that some part of us desires. So, taking that stance. So, I read at the top of the sheet of paper, Dear Universe, I deeply hate and resent being interviewed on the Joe Rogan show. And that's where I started because I'm starting it because there's some part of me that totally hates that idea, that totally refuses it, that does not let it happen. So I write, I deeply hate and resent being interviewed by Joe Rogan because I have deep fear that I. And then I start finding things. So I can write things that are like literal fears, because I have deep fear that I won't actually get along with him. I mean, maybe he's just a jerk. Because I have deep fear that I won't seem cool, because I have deep fear that I will feel anxious, because I have deep fear, and I just find, at least 20
Mm.
fears. And I write at the bottom of the page, Dear Universe, God, Jimmy Buttercup, whoever you want to address. Dear Universe, I pray that you remove these fears. I pray for knowledge of your will for me and the power to carry it out. And then the very important part is that I have to read it out loud to another human being. And that's the part some
Yeah.
people are resistant to doing, that I pair people up in my programs and make them read it to each other. Because there is something about sharing this with another human consciousness. And, usually it's partnered, so somebody else will read theirs to you. That really starts to click in that like everybody has these fears and they're very, very silly. And it usually takes about 2 weeks of writing inventories and reading them out loud and doing the little prayer at the end. And when the other person hears your inventory, they just say thank you. They're not supposed to like comment and psychoanalyze you about it. Thank you for your honesty. But we do this because it's like scraping off a layer of paint. And I recommend that people start with deepest fear inventory because it's a practice that you can do even if you are depressed, even if you don't have a
Yeah.
sense of humor about your situation. Like you can start there. And it's after 2 weeks of reading aloud your fears, you just get so fucking bored of them that you let them go. I swear that's what happens. It's change through boredom. But it's also, it's making the unconscious conscious because usually for any situation that we have, like there's all this unconscious stuff. Like I'm unwilling to feel this. I'm afraid of this. My mom will think I'm better
Yeah.
than her and she won't like me anymore. My sister will think I'm ignoring her. Blah blah blah, whatever. But just we bring that to the surface. So we just make it conscious and we share it with another human being. We just read it and read it over and over again. And eventually it just loses its grip. And then
Mm.
we have a new layer of freedom.
Yeah, I want to thank you for making psychology now using sex terms instead of just blaming things on our parents. This is much more interesting.
Glad.
I'm just glad it's
Yeah.
not just, blaming your parents. And then the last one that I really like that I heard my friend has just been doing, which is go seek out 30 rejections. I
Yes.
fucking love that idea.
Yes. Isn't that a great one?
Yeah, that's really great. And at first you hear that and you're like, no, but then the more I think about it, I'm like, well, if rejection's already your biggest fear, you're already there, man. Like, all right, I'm gonna get rejected. This is great.
Precisely. You have tuned. I'm really glad that you brought that one up because that's exactly it. When you turn it into like, I'm seeking this, I'm seeking the no energy because Lordy, I hate no energy, rejection energy too. I
Yeah.
have in the past. And so, yeah, changing the orientation towards it and being like, I'm seeking this. I'm gonna go get it. It's out there for me. That's what I want. It again, it's a polarity shift like we were talking about. There's like when you go into a room, into an audition, into a date, into whatever, an interview with that kind of energy of like, I am so hot for you to say no to me. I'm gonna ask you something. I really want this part. I want another date with you. I want this job, whatever it is. And your no is I'm gonna be delighted by it. Yes.
That's
You
so
go in with
cool.
that energy, it's godlike energy. That's like the energy of true love is that like
Wow.
I'm like if you say no to me, I'm not going to shut down and be like, "Oh, do you guys, I'm going home." I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to like Cartman it. I'm going to like Jesus it. And that's hot. Everybody wants to be around a person who can do that.
Wow. Is
So,
that's amazing.
yeah.
Is there any other technique that you use that you feel like is super effective?
Techniques. Well, yeah, well, gets into farther, maybe weirder even stuff than this, but like, you know, so I think some people read my book and then they come to my online courses and my in-person courses and they're like, wow, I didn't even know it could get this weird because a lot of what I do is called theurgy, which means God working, which means using ritual action to basically make the soul into a nice, rounded out receptacle for divine energy to receive, yeah, direct transmissions, guidance, prophecy, healings, all sorts of things. So the mystery school, we do a ton of theurgy. In a lot of my online classes are devoted to theurgical practices, and people have dramatic life changes from that. So, yeah, theurgy.
God work. I love it. All
God
right.
working. Yeah, I like to say that shadow working leads to God working.
Ah, okay. So that's the next step. All right, awesome. Well, this has been amazing. I like to close by playing a game called Spiritual or Asshole, where I say some things and you tell me if it's spiritual or asshole. Are you down?
Please.
All right, spiritual or asshole. Telling your wife that she has a kink for making shitty food.
Asshole, my husband does stuff like that.
Spiritual or asshole. Masturbating in a dark room to kink porn and being like, looks like two kinks at once.
Uh, hard to say. Wow, could go either way.
All right, there's an in-between answer. Great. All right, spiritual or asshole. Instead of feeling shame for repeating a pattern of behavior, you just say to yourself, looks like someone needs to come.
Spiritual.
Okay, spiritual or asshole, doing a deepest fear inventory, but every fear is just improv comedy.
So spiritual.
All right, spiritual or asshole, telling everyone on a work Zoom, listen, guys, all of us are here because we fully hate ourselves.
Basically enlightened.
Spiritual or asshole, telling your partner or seeing your partner crying and saying, I'm so turned on right now.
Spiritual.
All right, last question I ask everybody. If you could tell people one thing to tell themselves all day long, what would it be?
God, you're so good looking. Wow, you are so hot. Oh my God.
No one has ever said that. That's fucking great. No one has ever said looks. That's so good. I'm so glad you did that. That's amazing. This has been so fun. Well, you want to tell everybody where they can find you?
Yeah, they should go to theimmortalcollege.com, and that's where they can. The thing to do would be to join the email list because the
Okay.
emails I send out are really cool, and they get all the offers, and there's stuff about classes you can just buy from the website. And there's also, they should join the waiting list for Sleepover Mystery School. Our next round is in 2026, and it's this incredible in-person deep dive into the mysteries with an existential kink theme. It's in-person weekends. It's like a cross between an ancient mystery school and a naughty co-ed slumber party. It is the literal best. And we
Where's
also
that? Is that in Pittsburgh?
one of the meetings is in Pittsburgh. Two of the other meetings are elsewhere. In past years, we did them in Miami. We did two of the meetings in Miami, one in the woods in West Virginia, one in a weird old place in Pittsburgh. But next in 2026, I'm not sure if we'll still be in Miami, but we'll be at someplace else because we start in February or January. So we try to find someplace warm for people to go to at that time of year.
That's great.
But yeah, we have four live in-person ritual immersion weekends, and then people are initiated into our ongoing magical order, which is a lifelong thing. So we have reunions and meetups, and we have magical practices with all the initiates from Sleepover Mystery School. They can also check out my podcast, Sleepover Podcast, where basically I don't like interview people or anything. I just talk, talk to people who are already around me. I mean, I guess it's interviewing sometimes, but anyways, they can hear from Sleepover Mystery School initiates and hear from me and people who work with me about weird stuff that we think about and that we're doing. And I also have Penetrate, which is an existential kink coach training program, which will open again next year, and they can join the waiting list for that. And this year we have something called the Red Work, which is for people who want to use online business growth as an alchemical spiritual life practice.
Mm.
That's happening right now. Is the Red Work will be open soon in I don't know when you publish your episodes, Brendan, but it'll be open in the middle of February 2025 if people.
All right. Yeah, I'll be probably going around that. Well, that's awesome. You got a lot going on. Well, thank you so much. This is so fun.
Yes, thank you.
All right.